Today we're going to talk about line and stanza, rhyme scheme, and understanding the speaker of a poem. First topic, line and stanza. And by the way, you might notice that some terms in this video are orange. Those are the ones you ought to know by the end of the show. They will also be found in your study blue flashcards. First poem we'll look at, "The world is not a pleasant place to be without someone to hold and be held by." This is part of a poem that you'll see in a little while, but I'd like to use it to talk about line and stanza. There are 3 lines in this poem, and lines are not always complete sentences. The second line, "to be without," that's more of a prepositional phrase or a verb phrase. And "someone to hold and be held by," that's just a noun phrase. Sometimes you have to read the whole stanza to get the idea. One line is not always going to give you the whole idea. Rhyme scheme. Rhyme scheme is a sound device. You might remember that from a previous lesson. To mark the rhyme scheme, you use a capital letter for each line. You begin with a capital A, and oftentimes you'll find that you can begin again with A for each new stanza, but not always. Let me show you an example. This is one stanza of Annabel Lee by Edgar Allan Poe. I want you to listen for the lines that rhyme. "And this was the reason that long ago in this kingdom by the sea, a wind blew out of a cloud by night, chilling my Annabel Lee." The first line we always begin with capital A. And we look at the second line to see if it rhymes with the first. Ago and see. Those don't rhyme, so we have to go to the next letter, B. Now we look at the third line, night. Does night rhyme with ago? No, so it's not a capital A. Does it rhyme with C? No, so it's not a capital B. Next letter is C. Now we look at the fourth line, Lee. Doesn't rhyme with ago, but it does rhyme with C. Aha, we're going to put a capital B. The rhyme scheme in this stanza is ABCB. Let's look at our first poem, Scaffolding by Seamus Heaney. Just so you know, scaffolding is this stuff. It's the grid of metal and wood planks that builders or painters stand on to work on a structure. Masons, when they start upon a building, are careful to test out the scaffolding. Make sure that planks won't slip at busy points. Secure all ladders, tighten bolted joints. And yet all this comes down when the job's done, showing off walls of sure and solid stone. So if, my dear, there sometimes seem to be old bridges breaking between you and me, never fear. We may let the scaffolds fall, confident that we have built our wall. First, is this a traditional poem or an open poem? Well, to decide if it's a traditional poem, we look at 3 things: rhyme, rhythm, and structure. The first thing I can see off the bat is structure to this poem. There are 2 lines in every stanza, so it looks like it has a structure or a pattern to it. My guess right now is it's traditional, but let's see about rhyme and rhythm. The rhythm, I just don't hear it. Masons, when they start upon a building, are careful to test out the scaffolding. Make sure that planks won't slip at busy joints, secure all ladders, tighten bolted joints. And yet all this comes down when the job's done, showing off walls of sure and solid stone. So if, my dear, there sometimes seems to be old bridges breaking between you and me, never fear, we may let the scaffolds fall, confident that we have built our wall. So I hear rhyme, but I don't hear rhythm. To mark the rhyme, I would mark a capital A to begin with, building. Scaffolding kind of rhymes with it, so I would say that does rhyme, but you can't call it a perfect rhyme. I've been calling it a close rhyme, but the technical term is slant rhyme. So the first stanza is AA. The second stanza, I'm not going to put an A because I don't want people thinking that I believe that points rhymes with building and scaffolding, so I'm going to use a B. And then joints rhymes with that, so A, B, B. Now done and stone. Again, that's a slant rhyme, done and stone. So I'm going to put C, C on that stanza. The next stanza, B and me, that would be D, D. And the last stanza, fall and wall, E, E. The rhyme scheme is definitely present in this poem, A, B, B, C, C, D, D, E, E. So I would say this is a traditional poem because it does have the rhyme scheme and structure. These stanzas are made of couplets. Couplets are 2 lines that form the stanza. As long as there are 2 lines in a stanza, you have a couplet. We talked about the rhyme scheme, we discussed rhythm. Now let's answer a question about what this poem really means. If you look at the last 2 stanzas, lines 7 to 10, who is the speaker speaking to and how does the speaker feel about the person? It says, so if my dear, that sounds pretty sweet. So if my dear, there sometimes seems to be old bridges breaking between you and me, never fear, we may let the scaffolds fall, confident that we have built our wall. Well, this is what you call an extended metaphor. And here in this poem, they're building an extended metaphor. They're comparing the scaffolding of construction workers building a wall to the relationship of the speaker to the person that they're speaking to. I would say that the speaker is someone who cares about the person that they're speaking to. And what the poet is saying is that a strong relationship is like a well-built wall. And if 2 people have built their relationship carefully, it can survive changes and problems, just as a strong wall survives the removing of the scaffolding. The second poem I want to talk about is called The World is Not a Pleasant Place to Be by Nikki Giovanni. Here's the poem. The world is not a pleasant place to be without someone to hold and be held by. A river would stop its flow if only a stream were there to receive it. An ocean would never laugh if clouds weren't there to kiss her tears. The world is not a pleasant place to be without someone. Is this a traditional poem or is it an open poem? We have to look at rhyme, rhythm, and structure of the poem. Now, I do notice, well, there are 3 lines in most of the stanzas, but the second one has 4 lines. And rhyme. The first line would be marked A for place. Without does not rhyme with place, so it would have to be a B. By would have to be a C because it doesn't rhyme with place or without. Well, then the second stanza, stop, only, there, it, wait a second. There's no rhyme here. So no rhyme scheme. No real structure to the number of words in a line or lines in a stanza, and I didn't notice the rhythm, so this is definitely an open poem. We talked about the rhyme scheme. In other words, there isn't one. There is no rhythm, but this poem has repetition. Look at the first stanza as compared to the last stanza. They're almost the same. The world is not a pleasant place to be without someone. Now the first stanza has 6 extra words. So that is repetition. But what's the effect of the change in the last stanza? Well, in the last stanza, they've just left off those 6 words. And to me, it just makes it very brief and I don't know, it makes me feel a little bit lonely as if I were without anyone. I noticed personification in this poem. The river would stop its flow if a stream weren't there to receive it. That's not necessarily personification, but I do, in my mind, I imagine the river deciding to stop because there isn't anybody there to love it. And then the ocean, oceans definitely don't laugh, and clouds definitely don't kiss tears away. So several examples of personification here. Alliteration, pleasant place, hold and be held by. Let's see, do you see any others? That might be it. What's the poet's message? Well, this poet, again, is talking about love. The world just isn't as much fun without someone to love and someone to love you. All right, now you need to begin answering the questions. So, go to the document that's attached and we'll read Annabel Lee by Edgar Allan Poe. It was many and many a year ago in a kingdom by the sea that a maiden there lived whom you may know by the name of Annabel Lee. And this maiden she lived with no other thought than to love and be loved by me. I was a child and she was a child in this kingdom by the sea, but we loved with a love that was more than love, I and my Annabel Lee, with a love that the winged seraphs of heaven coveted her and me. By the way, seraphs are angels, and coveted means that they are jealous. They were jealous of her and me. I'm going to put the questions here, and you can answer them on your document. Number 9 is this a traditional poem or is it open? Where do you see repetition in this poem? Just in these 2 stanzas. Think about, for number 11, think about how does the speaker feel about Annabel Lee and how do you know that? Here's the next 2 stanzas. Where do you see repetition in these 2 stanzas? Next question, look at the 7th line. See if you can find assonance. And assonance is where the vowels in the middle match up. And you can look up assonance and stop this video if you need to figure out what it is. I'll let you answer the rest of these questions on these 2 stanzas. And the last 2 stanzas, here are the questions. All right, to wrap it up, we talked about rhyme scheme, using capital letters, starting over with each stanza sometimes, and you're looking at the last word in each line. You learned the word couplets, meaning 2 lines forming 1 stanza, and the idea of an extended metaphor comparing 2 things. Last, we talked about assonance. So, that's it for today.